where I last left off, and that's by plugging in the log base 8 divided by log base 3. When I do that, we get approximately 1.8928. So we can write our approximation. Now remember, I think everyone should have access to a scientific calculator, but if you don't, you can always show all your work and get to the exact value. Okay, so make sure you're doing that. Let's move on to number 2. The good news with number 2, you do not have to use a calculator at all, and that's because we can write 16 in terms of 2. So they'll have the same base. 16 is the same as 2 to the 4th. Now that the bases are the same, we can simply just set the exponents equal to each other. So we have 3x minus 5 equals 4. Add 5 to both sides, gives me 3x equals 9, divide by 3, and x equals 3. Notice I haven't been checking my answers at all for any of these because these are all exponential functions, so we don't have to worry about a domain restraint. Our exponents can be positive or negative, it doesn't matter. So that's why we're not checking our answers. Let's go on to number 3. Do I need a calculator for this one? Yes, I do. And that's because we cannot write these in terms of the same base. So what I'm going to do is take the log of both sides. And just to make that clear, the reason we take the log of both sides is because we want to take that exponent and bring it out front. That allows us to get that variable alone better. So once I took the log of both sides, I'm going to now take that exponent of 2x minus 3 and put it out front. Remember, really these are little bases of tenths, okay? Now that it's out front, I will divide by the log of 4 to get that variable as isolated as possible. Now we can continue to get x alone. We'll add 3. And notice I'm keeping everything exact right now to try to have my answer be as close to the exact as possible. And lastly, we'll take this all and divide by 2, or multiply by 1/2, whichever one you prefer. Okay, so I'll plug that into my calculator. Make sure we're paying careful attention to order of operations. We're not adding the 3 to the 60. We're not dividing 60 by 4. Okay, so I'm going to use some parentheses, and I'm going to do first the log of 60 divided by the log of 4. Then I'm going to add the 3. Once we get that answer, you can multiply by 1/2 or divide by 2. So we'll get approximately 2.9767. And there you have it. Okay, let's look at the next one. Next one is similar in the fact that we'll need a calculator because we need to write these, because we can't write these with the same basis. So I'm going to take the log of both sides to help us get that variable out front. And this one's going to require a little bit more work because we have exponentials on both sides and variables on both sides. So now my x plus 2 can come out front, and x minus 1 as well can come out front. From there, I'm going to distribute. I'm going to distribute this log 3 to both values in my parentheses. So we have x log of 3 plus 2 log 3. Same thing here. Distribute x log 5 minus 1 log 5, or just minus log 5. Okay? Now we'll get our variables to one side and anything without variables to the other. So I'm going to bring this quantity to the left and the 2 log 3 to the right. And what that will look like is x log 3. I'm going to take this x log 5, subtract it over. And same deal, I'll have minus log 5 still over here. but I'm going to subtract the 2 log of 3 to the right-hand side. Okay, so now I have my variables on one side and anything without variables on the other. From there, I only want this x to show up once, so I'm going to factor it out because it is the greatest common factor. So notice again, still not using a calculator for any steps yet, so if you don't have one, it's okay. Now, last but not least, to get this x alone, we're going to divide by this entire quantity. So my exact value is going to be x equals negative log 5 minus 2 log 3, which was on our right-hand side, divided by this quantity. Sorry. So there's my exact answer. Now, when approximating it, it's super important that you're using parentheses to separate your numerator from my denominator. So let's look at this together. Start with a set of parentheses. We'll have negative log of 5. Close the parentheses for the 5, but keep now subtracting, minus 2 log 3. Close the parenthesis because of the 3, but now an extra parenthesis to close the numerator. Divided by, open parenthesis for my denominator, log 3 minus log 5, double parenthesis to close the denominator. And there's our approximation, 7.452. And there's the first page of notes. I'll pause for a still frame.